Okay, Rick here. You asked for it. You asked about your resume and what it takes to build and create a compelling resume. So, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to figure out what to do to create a resume. They have one, they want to update one. It's college to career. They just got out of school, they just graduated. They're looking for promotion. They want a better job, right? They're quietly looking while they're still working. All kinds of different scenarios out there where people are trying to get the best resume to be able to reflect what they do, their strengths, their abilities to make a difference in terms of operations, their technical skills, leadership skills, operations, finance, you name it, right? And the key is, okay, so where do you go? Where do you turn? There's like a gazillion things online, right? Not to mention AI, ChatGPT, right? So everyone right now is talking about, hey, just go online, go through AI and have a resume created for you. It'll do cover letters, it'll do your interviewing for you, answer all these different questions, etc., etc., etc. But what's the real thing to do? Actually, there is no real thing. The real thing is what works for you, but I just have to share something with you that's very, very important. It's vitally important to your success, wherever you are, whether you're new, entering the job market, you're already a professional, you're seasoned, you're an executive, you're a manager, whatever or wherever you are, you've got to focus on what works for you. But the most critical aspect of this are your communication skills. Because remember one thing, no matter how well you write your resume, remember, it's ink, it's black ink on paper. If you use all these volutes and boxes and tables, your resume will not go through the ATS system. Now, everyone's talking about the ATS system, the applicant tracking system. They have software, they have things online that tests you, charges you money to see and evaluate the relevance of your resume. It gives you a percentage rating, a grade of sorts. But guess what? In my opinion, I wouldn't go there because the idea behind what you want to create is really based on your audience. You've got to know your audience. You've got to be able to articulate on paper, document your key terms, what you do differently, because the key to your success is differentiation. How do you differentiate yourself? What's your value proposition, to use a marketing term? What's your personal brand? All these things that you may think are just words and blah, blah, blah. But I gotta tell you, when you're at that desk and you're trying to interview for the job that you want, right, you better have your game face on. So you go to ChatGPT, you go to AI, and you create a great resume. But guess what? You still have to speak to it. You still have to be able to articulate and describe how you accomplish those things. So when you're looking at your resume, when you're looking at your ability to articulate your business story, and keep in mind, it is your business story, how you make an impact, how you make a difference, how you communicate, how you can step in and take over this role that perhaps 2 or 3 people were taking care of before, right? So your 90-second commercial, the response to the question, so tell me about yourself. What do you say in 90 seconds? Business, career, profession, education, how you make a difference. Why should we hire you and not the next person? So your 90-second commercial is gold. And at the end of this video, I'll share with you how you can get information from us. We have documents that you can download. They're minimal cost to you, but they'll make a big difference in your life, and they'll get you through and across the finish line. Because remember, when you submit your resume online or however you submit it, however you send it, or how it's scanned using the ATS system or whatever software HR is using, your resume is one of what? 5, 15, 50, 500 resumes. So you have to make sure that your resume stands out. You don't want to be on that big pile. You want to be in the short pile. So it's really important that you have the right document. So first things first, if you're going to use AI, you still have to be able to articulate what's on your resume. So be careful what you create, because whatever you create on your resume has to be backed up by your experience, right? Not just fluffy and big, 50-cent words or so, or 75-cent words. It's got to be compelling to what you do. It's got to describe your key strengths. right? The opportunities where you took leadership, where you described your operations, customer service, quality, safety first, all those different things. But what do you say and how do you say it in 90 seconds? Why 90 seconds? Because you're going to make an impression very quickly. And guess what? You have 11 seconds to make an impression and 17 seconds to break it. So the key here is, how do you do that? When it comes to interviewing, this last piece right here, interviewing, how do you open an interview? How do you close an interview? How do you respond to difficult questions? How do you build confidence? How do you articulate? How do you feel comfortable in your space, being in a situation that seemingly is uncomfortable, but it's about a dialogue, a conversation? Remember what I just said. It's a dialogue, a conversation. It is not an interrogation. A lot of people see it that way, so they sweat their butts off because they're trying to figure out how do I get through this in a way that convinces your audience that you're the person for this role. And the key is you have to be prepared. So let's break it down. Let's slow it down. Let's bring it back, and let's break it down into steps. If you're gonna use AI, once again, make sure you're able to not only accurately define, articulate on paper your core strengths and your accomplishments, right? Be careful, because if you overstate yourself, you may get caught in a situation that could be uncomfortable for you. So if you use that medium, okay, good luck. But the key here is being able to speak to whatever it is you create. So put that aside for a moment. If you need a resume that's traditional, one that reflects an overview of your background, your contributions, working with a coach, a resume coach, which of course that's what we do also. You'll be able to work with somebody who can coach you and guide you to create something specific to you that could reflect a combination of your true self, your true abilities to articulate and communicate your accomplishments on paper that could resemble anything that you can get from online or even AI. Okay, so the key here is, whatever medium you choose, you need a resume that reflects who you are in terms of authenticity. So think authenticity, think credibility, think your ability to tell a business story, a career story that really allows your audience to understand who you are. Okay, so that's the resume piece. And by the way, the resume, what's the components, or what are the components of a resume? Of course, you need the header, the top piece right there with the your information, right? Your contact information. Do you have a picture? Do you need a picture? Not really. If you have a picture, then there's two different ways of looking at it. My recommendation is, don't put a picture on it. Now, of course, depending on your audience, your industry, whomever you're targeting, know your audience, know what's normal for that particular sector, okay? So my opinion, no picture, because then you risk it not going through the ATS system, right? And what if someone doesn't like how you look, right? All of a sudden you start looking at both sides. What if they like how you look? What if they don't like how you look? Now you second guess yourself. So back to the resume. What are the components? You need something that articulates an overview of your background. I like to create a section that is specialized, right? And then you get to the body of your resume in terms of your key terms that describe what you do, how you differentiate yourself, and the skill sets and those areas that are abilities and core competencies that you have going for you. The other piece around this are the statements, the accomplishment statements. How do you write these? Because you want to make sure they describe what you do. And remember, you don't just want to describe your duties. If you just describe your duties, then you sound like everybody else. If you're an engineer and you describe your engineering duties, 5 resumes with 5 different ways of describing duties are all the same. And yes, they have to interview you, but you want the resume that stands out, that is in the short stack, the one that describes what you do in a different way because it's set up to describe your strengths and it's results driven, right? Then, of course, the back of the resume has to do with your education. Those who are students, oftentimes, because of minimal experience, put their education at the top. I recommend you don't do that. whatever experience, internships, you lead with those to describe the strengths and skills you have to be able to ingratiate and to make an impression, a positive impression on your audience. Now, it's not bad, or they're not going to ding you if you put your education first. I just think personally, lead with your profession, right? Or your skill set. And the education goes in the back. But remember, you put your education at the top, and automatically, student, okay, or intern, or not enough experience. So the education goes in the back. Also, additional experience. If your resume is way too long, you only want to go back 10 or 15 years, right? Can you use 3 pages if you need to? Standard are 2 pages. 2 pages are standard. Now, sometimes people will say, and you've heard this a million times, oh, I heard you only need 1 pager, or it should be all on 1 page, right? Okay. Put it all on 1 page because the recruiter or the headhunter said it's got to be on 1 page. If you can't do it on 1 page, you're not going to be called in. Well, let me tell you something. If you have the skill set and the background they're looking for, they're going to call you in no matter what. But it's got to look good, sound good, and reflect what you do, and also speak to the needs and or the rec that they're looking for, right? So the 1 pager. Here's the story behind the 1 pager. You submit a 1 pager, and people say, oh, they only want 1 page because it's succinct. Right? And I say to them, well, what if you do that because your recruiter said only 1 page, give me 1 page, and you give them 1 page, and now you think, do they have enough information? Because now they submit your resume, and you may not be putting in all the information and skill set that you may have that could lead you and prompt you and kick you across the finish line if you had the 2 pages to articulate more effectively what you do and your background. So I'm not a fan of the 1 pager. Unless all your experience fits on 1 page. That's different. But 2 pages. For those of you who have a lot of experience, 3 pages, if you need it, go for it. No one's going to say, hey, Bob, I'm sorry, you got 3 pages here and we only want 2. They're not going to say that, okay? So 2 pages is the standard, all right? So you know the components. You've got the summary at the top. You've got your skill set, your competencies, your key terms, the body of your resume, and in the back, you have additional experience. Only go back 10 or 15 years. Anything beyond that, you can put as additional experience. Then your education, if you've written books or you've got patents or whatever you may have, any experience. Remember, no one wants references now, so you don't need to put references on there. And the key in all of this is having a document that reads well and speaks to your core skills and your strengths. Okay, that's the resume piece. And again, you're going to have access to us in a minute. You have something you can click on and you can ask us, talk to us, buy whatever you want that's affordable to you with regards to support for your resume, for your 90-second commercial, or even interviewing. And it's really cost effective. You can afford it. It's not that expensive. So when it comes to interviewing, the key here is being able to focus once again on being authentic. Be yourself. Don't forget to breathe. Whether it's online, your Teams or Zoom or whatever you're doing with Google Meets, or even in person, the key here is you being present. So you're allowed to be nervous. You're allowed to feel awkward. You're just not allowed to be unprepared. You've got to be prepared. You've got to have your game face on, right? And I'll say it then, you can laugh if you want, but try to have fun, because it's an opportunity, it's a dance, it's a careful dance where you really have the ability to make an impression, right? And if you really want this job, the best thing you can do is be yourself, be authentic, build trust, communicate in a way that allows your audience to know that you can step in, and if it's a leadership position or requires decision making on a level that's higher, be able to speak to experiences that you have, or a perception you have about that, or the philosophy behind it, or your excitement and the ability for you to be a quick learner, quick study, minimize that learning curve, and you're excited, you're proactive, use action verbs, right? Don't exaggerate, right? Just be yourself, be present. And there's no need to exaggerate or be in any way, shape, or form arrogant, forget that. But confidence is from inside, right? It's an internal inspiration piece that comes from the inside out, all right? So be aware of that. And so when you do your homework and you listen to what you have written, meaning that you read it and you play it in your head and you practice it, you're in a good place to respond to questions when asked during the interview. And remember that every bullet point in your resume, someone's going to ask you about that, potentially. So you need to know how to respond to that particular bullet point, that accomplishment statement. And then there's probably one step or one dimension beyond your answer that they may be asking you, right? So don't MSU. Don't make stuff up. And the S stands for a different word in other environments. Don't MSU, don't make stuff up. Be authentic, right? Build credibility, build trust. Be yourself. You're allowed to be nervous. You're allowed to feel awkward. You're just not allowed to be unprepared. So again, in summary, whatever you use for your resume, if it's AI, be careful what you use and how you articulate that, because at the end of the day, you have to speak to it. You have to be in a place to really articulate, describe, and communicate what you do and how you do it effectively, right? So it's all about building relationship, right? Being able to build credibility, as I mentioned, build trust. Are you the person? Can we trust that you're the person to step in and make a difference? Speak to your goals, speak to your first day, what you would do. Ask questions, right, about how they're looking for someone to solve problems. Let me rephrase that. Ask questions that will identify what they're looking for as far as their problems, so you bring the solutions, right? Don't tell them how to do it or how to solve it. Let them know you have experience in areas that speak to that, but not the answer, because it could be wrong. All right, I've had people say, oh, I know the answer to that. You do X or you do Y. And then the interviewer, your audience, says, we tried that. We lost $4 million, right? So don't do that. Speak to the experience in a way that you can relate to it, what you might do. One option is A, option B is the other. However, I don't have all the information, but given what you've shared with me, I think this would be a good course of action. Things like that, right? So if you need a coach, let us know, or work with someone you feel comfortable with, whether it's us or someone else. Make sure you're comfortable with the person you're working with, right? We've been doing this for many, many different years, or let's say many years. And so we have the ability to work with people on all different levels, from frontline to C-suite executives. We have a whole team of people all across the country. So let us know if we can help you. And again, the link will come up shortly and you can tap into that, or it might be there already. So again, focus on your presentation skills. And remember, as I mentioned with regards to interviewing and your 90-second commercial, it is about your business story. All right, so don't overthink this, don't intellectualize it, don't think that you can't do it because you can, right? And the idea behind all this in terms of how you pursue your job search and how you organize it, it's imperative that you have a system. It's imperative that you are structured and disciplined in how you send your resume, who you send it to. Now, if you're the kind of person who says, hey, Rick, everything you talk about is pretty cool, but it took me 10 minutes to get a job, God bless you. That's not the norm, as many of you know. So it takes diligence, it takes effort, it takes organization, it takes discipline. And so if you want a job, depending on how fast you want it, you want to be spending 4 hours average a day researching and submitting, not just submitting resumes, but making phone calls. And that's a whole different strategy. Making phone calls, talking to people, using LinkedIn to track posts and connect with people who are in your space or who work for organizations or sectors and or companies or industries that you want to be a part of. So you want to capitalize on LinkedIn, because that's really gold in terms of how you do that. And you've got 300 characters to create a little blurb of introduction, to be able to connect with people, ask questions, and meet people who are decision makers, people who can move the needle with regards to what you're looking for. So again, if you need support, click the link and we'll get information to you, or buy whatever you need that serves you. It's really affordable, and it gives you the opportunity to put a campaign together. And if you need coaching, let us know also. We'll get back to you. Tracy in our office is really good at getting back to you within 24 hours. But again, if you don't want to talk to anybody, just click on what's important to you. We have free stuff on there also that's helpful to you with regards to the job search. But remember, your job search is a campaign. So depending on how important it is to you, how you want to make a difference, don't waste your time on all these gimmicks out there online and all these different offerings, right? Make sure you talk to the people or have a good sense for what people can do for you based on what you're purchasing or based on who you're working with in terms of their ability to really coach you. Some of you need more coaching in terms of the confidence building, your ability to articulate, tell your business story. But remember, the last thing I'll say here, it's about your ability to convey and to let your audience know your leadership, operations, quality, safety first, your ability on the technical skills side, and any skill set that you have that represents what they're looking for to be able to differentiate how you make a difference. I hope that's helpful. If you need us, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Take care.